Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Charles.
I'm John.
And I'm Robert.
And Seth is still out sick. He's been sick for 3 weeks now.
Oh, dear God.
Seemingly.
It's tragic.
Actually, it's not his fault. We just kind of jumped forward in time 2 weeks, which is why we're wearing the same clothes as last episode.
I said no, Bill. I said no.
I know, but I had to go there anyway. And it seems appropriate jumping forward in time because we're going to talk about jumping forward in time now.
Yes.
Both in theory and in film as appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about jumping forward in time in movies, of course, Interstellar comes right to mind being a current one, but also Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm. Goddamn dirty apes.
Yes. Can anybody think of any other shows where there was an example like that where they jumped forward?
Well, Idiocracy, technically it wasn't time travel. He was just frozen, but to him, time changed.
Isn't it Buck Rogers or one of those guys?
Same thing.
In the 24th century?
Buck Rogers froze, and then he was unfrozen in the 25th century. Yes.
I mean, Wrath of Khan. We got to go there.
Right,
Ooh.
right.
Same thing, suspended animation. But yeah.
Still.
It's time travel to them, though.
Right.
And I think that's the whole concept behind this. When you look at the scientific side of potential time travel to the future, you're looking at basically suspending yourself in some way, whether it's traveling near the speed of light or, as we talked about earlier, at a event horizon of a black hole.
If you break down life to what it actually is, and it's not flattering, all life on Earth is basically DNA trying to replicate itself.
Well,
So in terms of that, in like all the ones who are frozen and woken up in the future, it's DNA time travel, which is all that's really important in terms of evolution. And I know that makes you feel unimportant, and it should. But yeah,
But no, H.G. Wells' Time Machine, not the movie, but the book, right? That he goes forward.
Yeah, the movie as well.
That's true.
And,
Yep.
Yeah. And so,
but yeah, he
Yeah, so-
violates causality by being able to go back and warn people about the future.
But we get to look forward to becoming either
Elor or
or
The Aloy or the Morlocks.
Morlocks, yeah.
yeah.
Depending on what class you're in.
right.
But eventually, we're all going to be like little blobs with claws.
Maybe. But,
What?
I mean,
What?
Wasn't that in the book? Isn't we were either like a crab people or amoebas
Well,
or
they were.
something?
people?
Yeah.
The Morlocks were, I don't know, weird cave
Underground
people. Yeah.
cave people, yeah.
Yeah.
but what start them was that they were a certain working class.
Yes, it was a statement of class in
Right.
H.G. Wells.
And that's something that's, they're talking about now because of the advancements in health and science and longevity. The people who can afford it are going to improve their genes. They're going to improve the genes and the quality and the health of their children versus the people who can't. And what is that going to change over time?
And here's a question along that line is if you've got the money like that and somebody develops a way where you can be suspended animation for a period of time and come out in the future, would you do that?
No, because you don't know what that future is going to look like.
Absolutely.
You would do it?
I would want to see. I'd want to know. I have this urge to always know.
Knowing that you can't come back because it's a
Absolutely.
one-way trip.
Well, they had ideas like that in the 70s about cryogenically freezing yourself. Those people are beyond dead. They actually, the freezing process expanded all the water in their body and actually just ripped their DNA apart.
Sure.
And it's like they will never come back. But it's like you don't know. It's like you get safely frozen. And the next day, civilization ends. And you just don't come back. You just
Well, that's
it's a risk
what
you take.
that's
Well,
what
yeah,
happened
but-
in Forever Young. So
Yeah.
that Mel Gibson movie, in that he was a test pilot. His best friend was a scientist, and this guy's fiance wife went into a coma, and he could not emotionally cope. So he said, "You need a test subject for this cryotherapy. I'll be your test subject. Just wake me up when she wakes up." And unfortunately, there was a lab fire because this was a secret government experiment. His friend dies in the fire trying to save him, and people just forget about him. He gets put into storage for like 50 years.
Why are you smiling at that, Charles?
That's funny. I don't know.
That's funny. Tragic, like, yeah.
Well, and as a supplement to that question, if you were to freeze yourself, all right, for a period of time to be woken up later, what would be the optimal time that you'd want to be asleep?
Well, I think it depends
How
on the
long
situation.
would you go? Would 10 years be too long? Look at the progression of change, and that change happens faster and faster all the time because computers get faster, civilization gets faster, right?
If we went to sleep right now and woke up 10 years from now, we would all be obsolete and useless. Every piece of education we have would have absolutely no bearing on anything.
Well, you could go far.
Except maybe Jenna.
It
I
depends
guess
how
history
many-
is going to stay the same unless time travel backwards.
She's going to be
is
missing a
possible.
piece. Huh?
It depends how many people are going with you. That's because you could go way ahead and you'd be a historian
Right.
if society survives at all.
But if
But if you-
more than one person can go, then how many historians do you need? in the
No, you
future?
don't.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
If you're the only one, you'd be an oddity. You'd be an eccentricity.
Unless you're, because of some tragic whatever, you're like the last fertile human being.
And you'd be kidnapped
Well,
by apes.
that's a different status.
And
though,
that, I
you know.
mean-
that would be, and that's a very popular conspiracy theory too, is that UFOs are time travelers from the future where humans have made terrible decisions. But but let's look at South Park again. Another show I would not have brought up in terms of time travel in my mind, but where people from the future start traveling back in time to get jobs.
Yeah.
And they took our jobs. and basically they had to figure out a way to stop the time travelers from taking over all the jobs. And what they did, I can't really explain on a show because Seth would lose it because we would definitely
Clear
blow our-
rating.
our
Clear rating. We got to
rating,
protect
yeah.
that in his absence.
Because it's very important to Seth. So yeah, so
Well, what if you could, let's say you have saved up a lot of money. You decide you want to invest that money in stock market, and then you want to freeze yourself for 10 years and come out and see how those assets did.
well, if you used Confederate dollars, they wouldn't be worth much. If you
Well,
used,
10 years.
I mean, what banking system has lasted the longest? I mean, you'd have to analyze.
Well,
all
we're only
that.
talking 10 years, right?
Yeah, but it's like if,
I mean,
if
the dollar will be around in 10 years.
It will, but it's like if you invested and then the Great Depression happened, and
worth
then
the
they
gamble.
reset the economy, and your money's gone, then you don't have interest accruing, and you wake up with nothing.
Right.
So
That's the risk you take.
Yeah,
Right.
but is it worth it? I mean, it's honestly, it's like, are you so disenchanted with the existence of right now that you would throw all those dice to see what it's like in the future, and in a future where you actually can't get a job other than menial manual labor because your education means nothing now?
What if you felt that everything's going to hell in a handbasket, that nuclear Armageddon is going to happen? Nobody
And
can prevent it.
Then do you wake up in a future? If you wake up in a future at all, you just saw
Would you?
you're in a fallout.
Well, would you freeze yourself
No.
underground for...
Oh, you Vault Boy! You're talking about
Yeah.
the whole Fallout 76 or
I just
Fallout in general.
realized that if you guys find a time machine, whether you decide to go into the future or into the past, John's going to kill you.
Well, no, only if.
But
I think. Would you go back in time if you had a time machine?
I'd be more interested in going to the future
But if you that's
and
not an
bringing
option.
back
That's-
future
that's
technology
not-
to my current
That's not an
time.
option. You can go to the past or not.
If I can go to the past,
That's it.
why would I?
All right, then you can live. That's just it right there. I believe you. You can live.
so, going back to kind of what Bill brought up, to survive something, you think the world's going to hell.
Yeah.
That's where, because travel to the future is actually feasible,
Mm-hmm.
if you create like a ship or something that
We're
can
doing
go
it right now.
can go to a location where there's such heavy gravity that time goes slower, you could talk about someone or some organization creating a life raft of people like, okay, there's an asteroid about to hit the Earth. We know it's going to hit, and it's going to take however many hundreds of years for it to be
Habitable again.
again.
I think that's
so
more
let's
of
send
a
people
along
forward
the lines
and
of
come back.
the suspended animation though, because really time.
But you don't even need suspended animation
No, you
to
can
a
just
degree.
do it.
Yeah,
You
if you
just
can.
send somebody off.
Yes, but you don't need to freeze somebody. But honestly, as people get, because there's acceleration and time compression have very similar effects, which is what frame dragging's all about in terms of Einstein getting it right. That time travels faster the farther away you get from mass sources, and as you get close to the speed of light, time slows down. Literally, for what might take 4 years of your perceived time, thousands of years could have passed on Earth.
Right.
Which is another form of just suspended animation without putting anyone to sleep. It's like it just
From your perspective,
yeah,
you'd still be living your life.
you would,
and
but-
you would age
But from the outside
4 or 5
perspective, you
years.
would be moving. You would be essentially stopped.
Frozen.
Yeah. So, but same thing pretty much. But I like it.
But
I do.
you could
It's like, but what
you could be on this spaceship with a super binocular looking at Earth.
That's a weird MacGuffin you just invented.
And then you're looking through the super binocular,
Waiting for
it to become habitable.
there's people do go into cryostasis. Let's say they're often someplace waiting for Earth to go, because you have to then think it's because we haven't found any place else that we could just send these people easily to live. So we have to go wait it out at a black hole and then come back.
Because that's easier than going to another planet.
Well, but it's a matter of, can you find the planet that, one, is
Sure.
habitable, and two, doesn't have a bunch of microorganisms in the air that's going to cause us to melt from the inside out.
Right.
Isn't that kind of what we
Or xenomorphs
What
that'll-
European powers did with America and Australia? It's kind of they dumped their problems. So we could take criminals and accelerate them to the speed of light.
See, that's the premise of Time Tracks. It's another old show that I don't know that many people have heard of.
I've heard of it. I don't
So it's all
remember
about
seeing
it's
it.
all about a cop that goes back in time because a whole bunch of criminals made a deal to get sent back in time to avoid getting in trouble with the law, and he's hunting them down in the past. At the time, it's like the 80s or whatever here or 90s.
Right.
But all the criminals go back and start new lives. Some above board and some still
Not.
criminals. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I could totally see someone who's an eccentric multi-billionaire and can get a hold of either cryostasis or technology to go to the black hole or whatever. Like, I hate everything now and people. Let's go roll the dice, do whatever, and come back in a couple hundred years to see what the world is.
I could see that.
Because they don't see any point to now.
But if you really see the dystopia as getting ready to crack, aren't you pretty much like having a very high percentage of that you won't come out at all? And it's like, are those dice worth rolling?
Well, not if
For
you
some
go-
people, yeah. Like, I would rather just see what else is out there or what else this could be in like 200, 300 years versus waiting it out, because I just don't see it going anywhere I like now. So
Maybe
maybe
it-
the next one I'd like more.
Maybe you'd come back in 200 or 300 years and we'd have warp drive, holodecks.
Maybe you'd come back and figure out that all the people who had the means to travel into the future like that drained the planet of its intellectual power, and that left the idiocracy to run and end up destroying the entire planet, allowing the
Listen.
environmental collapse of all the systems. And then
I would think an argument could be made that even with all the intelligent people here, we still have an idiocracy that's running rampant.
Well, yeah, that's because the intelligent allow it. It's like, but if you take them out of the picture, it's like you'll come back and find out people have been. It's like Gatorade is good for crops because President Camacho said so. You're gonna find a people that actually. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but you're right. It's like we got shows like Floribama Shore on MTV. It's just pap for idiots.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see, I
there's-
mean, we got that going on now.
But-
And I think even if you did have a lot of intellectual people still leave, That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be new intellectuals born.
But what stimuli will they have when they're just getting the training from,
Libraries,
Yeah, TV's bound to
libraries?
get better.
Who goes to libraries? It's like
librarians.
librarians and homeless people who go there to poop. That's pretty much all there. That's all there. It's like
What kind of libraries are you hanging out in, John? Because
public libraries. I'm just talking about. It's like, yeah, they don't do that as much at like the university libraries, but
As much.
Yes, but things happen. Things happen. It's a long way to the bathroom.
But there's going to be, I can very well see us, there's a plague or something, and the elite get to jump ship for a while.
Right.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
And just because someone is intelligent, it doesn't mean that they can work with a group well, because it kind of comes to a point when you're in a survival situation, you have to be able to work within a group for mutual survival. And some people become prima donnas, especially the more intelligent they are. And they might do something that because they can't collaborate with the group, that it just destroys everyone.
Like Stargate Universe comes to mind.
I hated that show.
Where they were on that ship,
Yeah.
right?
That
And
was
they
dumb.
had that super genius scientist that was
He was a pinhead,
everybody
yeah.
hated. He was kind of a pain in the ass, keeping secrets to himself and couldn't get along with anyone.
He
Yeah.
was the Parker Posey of
Right,
the universe.
right. You definitely wouldn't want to be on a spaceship where the passengers and crew were determined by the people who elect or pick out the people that are on Big Brother.
No, I might have misspoke in terms of intelligence. It's like everything we do to determine intelligence is actually it's assimilation, figuring out how well you fit into the society that you're actually in. The things we actually attribute to intelligence are cultural. If you teach your child a language before they're 10, they will learn to speak without an accent, and it's easier for them to learn future languages. If you stimulate children when they're young, they are more susceptible to accruing habits, skills, and knowledge that we ascribe to intelligence. But everyone seems to have, without any kind of profound brain damage, seems to have the same basic potential.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if that basic potential is not cultivated, like in an idiocracy sense, rather than teaching them a new language, you teach them more about the Kardashians. Then you've got a system that is going to breed ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
See?
So then
I'm
you
going to
have
jump
now-
on board the John Galt ship.
The John Galt ship.
Oh,
I don't
I-
get the reference.
I don't
that's
either.
Ayn Rand, right? Isn't it John Galt?
Ayn Rand, dude.
I never read her. Sorry.
Ayn Rand is a
Yes, I know.
a
I know.
cyst of ignorance that just
I know,
it
but
hurts.
nonetheless, the guy would. So the story, and then what I can't remember the name of the story now, but basically the elite start disappearing,
Oh yeah,
right? And
I
it's
just-
because
just
this
the-
guy, John Galt, who has set up a city someplace with invisible walls or something, and the elite, the people that cause. I am not an elitist, by the way. I was just saying. I would disagree. But they go to this other place, this island, and they let the rest of society just crumble.
Devolve.
Well, to me,
So that's
the time
Atlas
travel
Shrugged stuff?
there could be that would be the elite.
The
You
elite
get-
would
by
time
special
travel.
invite, you get to jump ship for a few thousand years.
but you wouldn't be relevant unless the economy somehow preserved itself in exactly the same manner. It's like
Well, yes, you would, because everybody else would die of their own ignorance.
Well, or if you go for 200-300 years, maybe you come back and we've got augmented
The big word
augmented
there-
people,
We're
right?
semi integrated
Yes.
into the big
the
AI
biggest
that will be
word
running
you
the
use
world.
there is maybe.
Well, sure.
It's all maybe, and it's like, is it worth it?
But I mean, we're heading in that direction.
Well,
now.
we're heading in the way of cyber integration. We're all going to be cyborgs pretty soon. But, I mean, then you come back and you don't have it.
No,
know?
but you come back and you get augmented with the current tech at
If
that time.
you
So
have the
it
money
doesn't
to do
matter.
it, you're not the elite anymore, is
But
what
it
I'm
doesn't
saying.
matter what you
The
knew.
elite now.
No, they are the elite.
Then-
You're not the elite now.
I think Robert had a thought.
Well, to me, that uncertainty is no different than the uncertainty that we have every day.
Yeah.
You make a decision for any decision, you don't
Right.
necessarily know the outcome. So what's the difference? Why is it such a bigger deal dealing with the uncertainty of freezing yourself
As
and
far
seeing what
as
happens?
uncertainty goes, it's like I can see at least another few years where
You
my
could
life is not so bad.
you
know,
could
it's
be
like,
dead tomorrow.
I could,
There could be a nuclear war, take you out tomorrow.
but why roll the dice when I mean
For fun.
For the lulz?
fun, for thrills.
YOLO.
You could come back. You could come back and find out that the human race has become populating the solar system, and maybe space travel is a common thing, and a lot of society's ills are eliminated.
Or I could
I have
come
so-
back and find President Camacho.
True.
Yeah.
I have such intense curiosity, though. I'd want to know. If
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to shift 100 years forward in time, I'd want to know.
Well, yeah, I would do it if I could come back.
Not
No,
even,
I-
just
You
to
can't
know.
come back.
I know you can't, but it's like the
John-
way it's looking.
John wants
is-
to miss out on the socialist
It's-
nirvana
it's
that
not-
is going to happen 100 years from now.
I wish that would happen, but unfortunately, it's actually looking like we don't have much of a run left to go.
So
And
you don't believe in Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future?
I don't believe we're going to live that long as a species.
You don't?
No, no, and I can make a fairly convincing case.
Because of
but
Reddit?
No, no.
Twitter.
John has to remind us at least once every podcast that everything is going to end.
Right.
Well, I just need to curb your optimism just a little bit, and it's like honestly, the data is pretty solid in terms of that. So bearing that in mind, let's just say that is a significant possibility. Doesn't matter.
Still want to know.
All right, but I mean, you don't get to know. You don't get to come out.
I am going to say,
if everything ends, you're not coming out of stasis. You're just going to die.
It depends on how that method is set
Right.
up.
It could be programmed to automatically revive
Yeah,
you
or
after.
or I'm doing the event horizon thing and I'm not actually in stasis.
But in,
Right.
in Passengers with Chris Pratt,
yeah, good film.
It was, but there was like the machine could wake it could wake you up, it could not wake you up. You couldn't go back in. There were special medical procedures involved in getting this all right. What if you couldn't bring yourself out? What if you actually had to have some kind of intelligent assistant to bring you out? And if that intelligent assistant
It
isn't
can't be an
there-
AI.
No.
And that's part of the what if of sci-fi, which is what we love.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I have made another determination, though.
Well,
If something
thank
like that
God.
happens, John's not allowed to come with us because I don't want to put up with I told you so.
But I won't. come out.
Fortunately, you wouldn't be able to.
There would be no I told you so. I couldn't do that. Though on some level and somewhere in the universe, I would be sad that I could not.
John, I mean, you're saying we wouldn't come out, but let's be honest. If we have the technology to put ourselves in it, there's probably a good chance we're going to have the technology to think about the possible challenges and come out of it.
I
Right.
don't even know what that means. What? Can
She's saying if you can build the technology to make it possible for you to do that, the technology is necessarily going to have a way for you to get out
A
of it.
fail-safe.
Yeah.
You should be
Yeah.
able to pull that off.
Right.
If we're talking about a universe in which you can go and do this to be in cryotherapy or to go to an event horizon and then come back, there's probably going to be something about it. I mean, it's that what if.
Yeah, some method of a Monday morning box.
Yeah. And you're just
right.
ruining your own what if by saying, nah, it's just,
Well,
even if I do go into it, it's
So
just
I
not going to be worth
I
it.
don't
It's not
think
gonna
that's
come out.
necessarily true. But let's say it is. Let's say it is, and you come back, and the Earth is a nuclear wasteland. You've thrown away.
Then you go
whatever
back to
was
the
here.
black hole
You don't get to go back to the black
for
hole.
another 4 years. Why not? You
Well,
got a
can,
spaceship.
but it's like,
It's true.
what do you think is going to happen?
I think
I'm
there's
going to
a
wait 1,000
possibility.
years till the Earth regenerates.
It'll take longer than that.
Whole
but-
new species, and then you're really
Yes.
novel. And,
Well, if all the nuclear weapons on Earth launch right now, it will render the Earth completely uninhabitable for a long, long time. I mean, talking about every piece of life on the planet will die. Even the microbes 4 miles below my feet right now, everything dies.
if we learn
I know.
anything from Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
But let's say it did. Let's say the radiation goes away and life reemerges. It's not going to be anything that looks anything like what you're used to.
Should be super fascinating to find out.
Right.
It would be. Right.
It's the experience from what was that recent
Until the intelligent
miniseries?
carrots enslave you, and then it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, where the last guy on Earth basically he gets taken back to Earth to just witness the destruction and be part of it. Children of Man.
Childhood's End.
Childhood's End. That's it.
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't
Clark
think I've
movie.
seen that one.
It's a good book. It
Oh
really,
yeah, and they just did a miniseries. I think it's
Did
on
they do
Netflix.
it? Did they do it well?
They did it very well.
Because
yeah.
they did one about a decade ago.
Oh no,
It
this
was-
is recent and it was
All right,
fantastic.
I'm gonna
yeah.
check that out because
So here's an interesting one. Have you guys ever read Ben Bova's Orion series?
No.
no.
Okay.
I,
So
wait. Okay, please tell me.
yeah,
I
this
might
is
have-
entirely about time travel. There's I think 5 books. The initial idea is that Orion is moving backwards in time from event to event.
And the Orion is an individual?
Is an individual,
Okay.
yeah. So and then Ahriman, who was the last of the Cro-Mag, is moving forward in time, and they're destined to fight in all these major places, right?
I have
or
seen
major
that. I
times.
can't remember it, but I have read that.
So it's a fantastic series, but one of the ideas is that our future selves have become so powerful through technology that they almost exist as beings of light. They fight their wars using clones.
Which would make sense.
Right. But the whole idea as you get through the series is
Clones are
that
people too.
the people that wiped
are.
out the Cro-Mag that were the first humans were clones sent back from the future. They were soldiers and such that were sent from the future to then fight the Cro-Mag, and that's why Ahriman's moving forward, going after them.
Oh, so he's trying to go to the future to take out the clones or the
Correct.
people
And
that created
Orion's
the
going
clones.
back in time to stop them.
Yeah.
That's
But
interesting.
it's a really kind of fascinating take on it to where we become our own origin.
Does it have that River Song 11th Doctor feel about she's getting the Cro-Mag's getting older and the Orion's getting younger, so when they meet each other they sometimes like the first time they meet, Orion will know who he is, but no, the Cro-Mag will know who he is, but Orion will have no idea.
Correct.
And then the next time, as they're going further back, they start getting more and more memories about each other until they get to the end where the Cro-Mag has no idea who Orion is, but Orion knows.
Right, because
Fully
in that
Cro-Mag.
early day, they were still Cro-Mag. They were,
Yeah.
enlightened species of
They were-
humanoid.
Cro-Magnons were actually human.
Yeah.
It's basically Cro-Magnons. It has to do with caves in France. But they were
Yes,
Homo
but in the
sapiens,
context
so-
of the story.
I did.
Yeah. Huh. Sounds like an interesting story. I'll have to check that out.
It's very
No,
it's
yeah,
a fun take on time travel.
Orion, Ben Bova does really good work. He's like
well,
the most underrated sci-fi author.
He also did
I think of.
that trilogy, like in one book, where Earth exiles all the scientists and great minds to a space prison, and they turned it into a ship and fly away.
I missed that one.
And then it jumps forward in time to different.
What's the name of that one? Do you remember?
I don't offhand.
All right, well, think about that.
Yeah.
All right. But we were going to talk about time travel, I thought.
We are talking about
Are
time
we?
travel.
Yeah.
Okay. We seem to be having a
We're talking about going forward in time. Last
Yeah.
episode, we kind of
Well,
dealt with backward in time.
The rest of us are talking about going forward in time.
John's
John's talking about
staying
staying right
here.
where he is with his old values. and-
He's going to wish us well as we move forward.
well,
Right.
I would, but it's like it's a simple matter of do you roll those dice and
But I think it goes back to what makes time travel attractive as a genre. Because you either have people who want to go in the past and change something to make a better present because they don't like what it is, or you have people who've given up on the present, like I just want to go see the cool things of the future and hope that something is better than what it seems like everything is going to be
both
now.
of those kinds of people are terrible. They're absolutely awful.
Would your calculation change if you had some sort of terminal illness that you thought maybe could be cured in the future? Would
Well,
you?
that's actually why a lot of people in the 70s
Yeah.
froze themselves.
I know.
And it's
So I'm
like,
asking you, if the technology was sound and you knew you could be woken up, or you could,
if I literally had, no other choice, if I had a terminal illness, I would. Why
Yeah.
not?
right?
Why not? It's like really honestly, it's not me giving up like possible 20 or 30 years. It's me giving up like painful 6 months or possibly being cured. So either way, I win.
'Cause we already
I skip
know-
the pain or I actually get cured.
We already know you'd be willing to go to San Junipero
Yeah, why not? Wouldn't you?
if I were going to die.
Yeah. I mean, not like now, but I mean, it might be fun to slip in there once in a while and live a
I'd
virtual
slip in there
existence.
and play around for a while. Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want to live forever?
Not in a machine.
I do. I'll do it. Besides, actually, it wouldn't matter because whatever engrams got impressed upon the machine in terms of that new virtual reality that you lived while you're dead, you would still die.
Until that
Right.
hard drive,
But yeah,
degrades or they don't update the
Well,
technology and you get a virus.
that's the that's the problem for the virtual
I am God
copy.
here.
That's the problem for the virtual copy of me, not mine. I'm going to die. My
Right.
my biological function, which is where my consciousness is kept, is going to go away.
John's like, sounds like a problem for future digital, John.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I would sure love to
Now,
help
would-
digital John. But
Would
it's like
future digital John jump in a future digital spaceship and go orbit around a black hole so that the
And
simulation could advance several
see,
hundred
and
years and then come back and see what it's
future
like?
digital John could very well be immortal, and I'm not. So there's different decisions to be made
True.
for digital John and John. So yeah, maybe with all the time in the universe to play with, maybe I would do all the things. Maybe that it would free up for me. And if tomorrow I could be immortal, the entire course of my life would change immensely.
Would you
Because-
want to be immortal?
Yeah.
Would anybody want to be immortal?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm checking all the boxes.
You want to be
He
immortal?
wants to experience all the things.
So you want to be immortal and not immortal? I don't.
No.
All the boxes. This is a yes or no question. You're saying I want to check
all-
them both. So it's
All
like,
the
I don't know.
boxes that did not come out of your mouth.
So he wants to be Duncan MacLeod. So
Yeah, I'm okay with
He
it.
wants
Oh yeah,
the-
because
there's
Duncan
a way out.
Duncan MacLeod was so happy with his immortal existence. Yeah.
Well,
well, he never did get over his Scottish wife. So he seemed, and that's something you'd have to carry with you. All the tragedies that you did
Yeah.
as an immortal person, you couldn't get rid of them.
Even as a digital person.
Although they are
or
doing
as a
some
mortal person, you still
Well,
have,
you
are
can't
stuck
as a
with
They're
your
digital
doing
drive.
some
person.
chemical therapies now that can erase portions of memory.
Right.
And you have to ask, if there's a bad decision you made, do you want it removed? I mean, is it something like Duncan MacLeod spent like hundreds of years sad about his wife's death? Would you think that maybe he'd want to have that removed if he could?
And not just that, he had to watch people he cared for, had relationships with, die
Yeah.
continually.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you would too.
But he always has Amanda, so it's
Well, you wouldn't in San Junipero.
True.
We're talking about in the machine immortality, right?
But it seemed in San Junipero every day was the same.
what
It's
I
like the next day was just another.
Day at the Quagmire.
what's interesting is that it seems like with a lot of these stories and genres that we've softened it to have a happy ending in any case. And time travel has been actually a subject in a lot of cultures, for years. Like, so the whole getting back to time travel exists in a lot of Irish folklore about the Fae. And a lot of times you hear about children being stolen or doing something terrible.
Native American
And,
mythology does that a lot
and they
too.
get held in these alternate dimensions for like what seems to them be only a couple of days, maybe a year, and then they get sent back because they did this terrible thing. There's no happy ending. There is they age 60 years or however many years they were gone in an instant once they step back foot into their own reality. There's no happy ending. There's just this horrible time travel lesson of when we're out celebrating the Fae and giving them their offerings, you don't take that. You honor the things and the traditions that we have, because if you don't, like there's going to be a terrible result that you cannot come back from. And with time travel, talking about making things better and things like that, it's a soft, warm, fuzzy, happy subject generally more often than not, versus these terrible consequences that cannot be undone.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking, should you explain what San Junipero is?
Yeah, well, for anyone that hasn't listened to the previous episode, we
Which you
talked
should go
about
back
that.
and do.
You should.
Yes, you should. We talked about that. It was a episode of Black Mirror, and it dealt with people that were elderly towards the end of their lives. They had the option of uploading their consciousness into a virtual world, and the last, year or so of their life, they could get, 5 hours a week. They could go into the San Junipero and try it out. and then decide if at the end of their life they wanted to be uploaded permanently to that virtual world. And it was indistinguishable from the real world once you were in it. There were different times that you could go to, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, or whatever. And they didn't really explain how you decided. It wasn't clear to me when you went in if you had to pick ahead of time, oh yeah, send me to the 2000s this time, and then I'm stuck there.
It's basically a computer version of Paradise that you get downloaded into at the end.
Right.
That goes
Right.
on forever and ever.
Right. Yep, that's a good way of putting it. So yeah, so it was an interesting show. So
Which is what the future is going to be like, John.
and then you had the option of removing yourself
even
from
if
it.
it is, I
you
won't
got
be
tired
in
of it.
and neither will you.
Well, you
Maybe
don't know.
copies of you will be in it, but your consciousness is going to be situated in your brain, stuck in the biochemical electric matrix that is your cranium. You
Or
won't
my
get out.
brains
You
can be
don't
implanted
get
into
out.
some sort of android.
But
and
your brain is an organic thing, and it decomposes over time. It degenerates.
not saying we haven't solved that problem in 30, 40 years.
How?
Somebody's going to come back, nab me, and load me into the
Maybe they've
Paradise
got
computer.
Maybe they've got nanites that they inject into your blood, and those nanites go in and repair the faulty neurons and dendrites that have aged out in your brain.
Maybe so. Maybe that would be cool.
That would.
But could you keep that structure alive forever? I mean,
Possibly.
well,
We're going to give it a
Gonna try.
good old college try there, John.
I'm not going to listen to you. He who
Well-
won't drive in his own bridges.
Okay, so here's a thought. Let's take that to the next step. All right. So John said, how long could you do that? Well, let's suppose that these nanites can go on repairing and rebuilding your brain forever. And maybe as they're doing that, they rebuild it with components that last longer but function exactly like dendrites and neurons. And they replace them a piece at a time so that none of your memories are lost, your cognitive abilities remain intact, and essentially your brain could live forever.
Slow process of cyborgization.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you just, at some point, you're not
But it's-
biological anymore.
You're not
That's a
biological, but it's
transhumanist dream
still
right
you.
there. That's
Yeah,
It is, actually. That is the
Yeah, that's the
dream.
transhumanist
Yeah.
vision of the future.
Yeah.
So that would still be you, right? I mean, it would be no different than you going in today and getting a hip replacement or whatever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're slowly, over time, biologically replaced a small micro component at a time so that the essential you remains.
Get on that. Yeah. Stop playing
Exactly.
around
Would
with
you want that?
Stop playing around
Absolutely.
with room cards and start doing
Because then
this.
when you
it's like-
decide you're done, you can choose to stop at that point.
Could you?
Anyone can always,
But
without
would
the
you? It's
technology,
like-
choose
it's
to
like,
decide they're
would
done.
you like to
Well,
be
that's
you
what I'm
or
saying.
you
So,
would-
so it's not like you are forced then into immortality. You can then live as long as you want.
Could you? Because today, it's against the law to commit suicide.
Depends on the state.
That's one of
That's
those
true.
weird. It's only against the law.
Okay,
You
move to
just-
Oregon.
Yeah, that's right. You have to live forever on the
Only
West
if you mess
Coast.
it up.
Yeah, you only get in trouble if you fail.
Right.
So yeah.
But so there's that thing. So
But that does.
if you were totally replaced, would modern society and the laws hold you to the same biological?
That is an interesting question. Would you be you? Would you legally have the rights that you had as a biological person? Would all of your life savings, would all the people you know, would you be legally you? And I don't
I think you would, because
I think this is where the law would have to have a precedent set, because right now
okay, but
God,
let's
that
say
forever
one of the
lawsuit,
conditions of
yeah.
humanity is that you die, and it's actually that was dealt with well in Bicentennial Man.
yeah,
Where
right.
like they had to determine whether or not he was human. And it's like if you went the other way, he was a robot that turned himself into a human.
Yes.
If you're a human that turned yourself into a cyborg, are you you? And that is not. You're saying yes, but it's like legally there is no such thing as yes.
Because the law is so good with keeping up with technology as it is.
It is,
Right.
but it's like
Right.
it takes time to set precedent. It's like. Is texting and driving wrong? Of course it is. Was
But-
it illegal for a long time? No.
But at what point
At
then?
you need precedent. You need to actually determine what, because this would make us redefine what human is. And you can't just say that you're human. You don't get to make that decision. It's something society does, not you. And society would take.
But if you start out human,
yeah,
And you start through this process, and it's a gradual process that takes 5 years, maybe 10 years.
Am I human? Am I human? Yes. I'm just going to say yes. I'm human.
Yeah, okay.
If I die 10 years from now, if you kept my body in the same place, it would just be a collection of like organic remains
Right.
in whatever condition. Is that human? See, it's like, what is
artist
human?
formerly
Human
known as human.
remains. Human remains.
Yes, but what changed in my status? What changed in
Well,
the
you're
status?
not alive.
Then that's are you alive? If you're a cyborg, are you technically alive? Is your heart beating? Is your blood flowing? Is any of the things that we attribute to life?
And some could argue that just the fact that there is a human consciousness that with electricity, neurons firing that create the thoughts, that create the self-awareness, that's what's human.
Yeah, we're the product of our brain, not our other parts.
But your
Yeah.
your
so
brain
it's like
is,
saying somebody with a pacemaker is not human.
Your brain's, and that's
Right.
actually an argument. But it's like you don't have your brain anymore. It's been replaced by some cyber construction from the nanites, and it's like,
But you still have the product of that brain and the sum of your
Do
thoughts,
you?
the sum of your experiences.
can a cybernetic brain experience life the same as a human brain? I'm not
I would say
saying,
yes.
See, and it doesn't matter what you say. It's not up to you. It's up to society, and society decides. And it's like it takes precedent. It takes time to determine. And at first, they probably say no. But as
I don't
more
think so
people,
because I think so many people would be doing it.
I think
And especially it would be the upper classes
That
that
would
could
start.
afford
Well,
it.
it would
And
be-
they would sway the politics to say, yes, I
Exactly.
am human.
And they would.
And that's how it would
And
go.
that's society. That's
Yeah.
society determining, not you. It's like it's not up to individuals. If you have a lot of money, you have a lot more say. But
Yeah.
it has to.
Well,
you know,
that's to the point, because sometimes you think that it would be only fun to time travel into the future if there's still a society there, and then at other times you think not.
Right.
Maybe-
You'd
maybe
rather
that
time travel
asteroid-
with restart society.
But generally
asteroid's a
time
net
travel.
positive, that's all.
I think all the temptations of time travel are societal for most of us.
Right.
It's not to see the Earth fall into the sun or something fun like that. It
Or
is-
maybe I want to go back and get a pet dinosaur. You don't tell me.
Right.
yeah,
It's the
well,
restaurant at
that's
the end of the
something.
universe. Is that?
Well, it
what I
doesn't,
want.
and it doesn't necessarily have to be human society either. You want something. You want an interaction with most
Other
of
people.
us with
I welcome my robot overlord.
consciousness. Yeah, or the squirrels or whatever.
Or
Squirrels.
maybe you want to see, did Neanderthals have a, how much did they evolve? Like, because we find their craftsmanship, we understand that they had language. So,
Yeah,
like,
why did somebody take them out? Yeah.
well, actually, they might not have. We might have actually interbred with them out of existence. But what we can tell
They
about
might have been
Neanderthals,
against time travel.
They were not. They didn't have the spark. They were not as creative. They do seem to. After they encountered humans, we start seeing that they started doing cave paintings, which means they saw us do it. Just like Coco the
So they
gorilla.
mimicked.
The Coco the gorilla. Well, it's different than mimic. Coco the gorilla was taught sign language. Gorillas have a gestural system. She could actually make her own signs. She was very, very intelligent. But gorillas never developed a complex sign language like that. When Neanderthals ran into us, they started doing cave painting. They saw what we were doing, and they saw it within themselves, but they didn't have that spark. Neanderthals actually had a bigger brain than ours. It's like humans are about 1,350 cubic centimeters, while Neanderthals were about 1,700 cubic centimeters. They had more brain, but did that brain work the same way? Almost certainly not. But why are we alive and they're not? The spark, our symbology, our ability to do all these things. Why? But I'd love to go back and like somehow talk to a Neanderthal to see
Aquarium.
what kind of reality is reality for a Neanderthal.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's Homo erectus, who had a 1,000 cc brain case compared to our 1,350, and they didn't bury their dead. We've never found a burial for an erectus, which means they didn't really have a concept of an afterlife, which is very critical to
And-
humans.
unless they put them in the trees.
That would have been a pain in the ass. I
But
think.
it's done. There have been cultures who bury their dead in trees.
But yes, but not all of them.
No.
And erectus was around for 1 million years. They were very successful for a human, a species of the Homo genus, and we've never found any burials. It appears they just took their stuff.
Unless they didn't have a philosophical point to it.
Yeah, I don't.
It
Yeah,
just
I'm
died.
Yes, but
Hey,
I'm not
I want
sure
his
burial.
wallet.
Or it was
every-
cannibalistic.
Well, every single no, cannibalism is a negative survival factor because of this pathogens issue. But
But was it for Homo erectus?
yeah, they would still all see. You don't eat human flesh because it has the same pathogens. It's like everything that you're susceptible to is possible
They
in
might have
every
just
human
had a
body.
different
so,
sense of smell, and it's that simple.
I'm just gonna say no, and move on from whatever that was. But
Well, shut up.
I mean,
I'm not so sure burials
over a
sign of
million years,
Yeah.
intelligence.
at some point you'd think that they would show signs that they thought that there might be an afterlife. Because Neanderthal did, humans do. Humans have always done that. They didn't have a concept
Well,
for life
maybe
after death. which
maybe
is-
their concept of an afterlife was different. Maybe they saw the body as
That's
just
a-
an empty
that's-
husk
that's-
and
well,
of no value because the
You're assuming
essence
that,
had
you're
moved
assuming
on.
that Erectus had the ability to analytically think at a level higher than us, which is improbable due to their much smaller brains.
But
Unless it go back to language thing, their reality did not allow for an afterlife. It's just it was what it
And
was. That
is
thing
exactly
is gone.
why I'd like to go back and talk to Erectus. it's to see if that reality. It's the arrival thing again. If they've structured their reality in such a way as it's built into not only their language but how they perceive the world, I would love to see that.
So, considering how long our last question always goes, I guess that's your answer, John. That if you had to go either back in time and see a particular point, what would it be? And would you change anything?
Oh no. I mean, because I don't want to write myself out of existence. I like it. One of the only things I really do is exist, and I like doing that. So it's like I would be unless it's one of those deals where it starts its own timeline and any changes I make don't matter.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I can almost see John's dating profile right now. Hi, I'm John Powers. I exist.
And nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters, right?
Okay.
Other things matter. It's like Star Trek matters.
Well, there you go.
Star Wars matters. All these things matter. And if I went back in time and I made one mistake in 1975, I could erase Star Wars. And it's like, because I mean,
Them carrying the film and
or-
just like
Well, no, the
gets
studio,
caught on
the
fire.
studio wasn't very pleased with the whole concept. They thought it was going to fail. So at any point along the way, something I don't even know what I would do, but if I did it, it would destroy Star Wars. and
Okay,
it's
but
like,
consider this. You could also go back and destroy Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. Well,
Well-
if I get an opportunity, I'm going to go back and make Star Wars a little less elitist and a little more inclusive.
what do you mean?
In
That
what way?
Everyone can be Jedis?
Yeah. Or poor people in general.
If I start with Jar Jar Binks, though, I have to get rid of the Ewoks. And somehow
You
at
don't
the
have
end-
to.
Yeah,
you don't
do.
touch my murder bears.
Murder bears are. You saw the disintegration
Yub nub.
of George Lucas's vision when these little tiny murder bears came out and defeated the Empire. It's like, what the hell? It's like these little like rock slinging, club banging murder bears beat the Empire, and
Right.
it's like yeah.
Well, their walkers didn't take into account logs swinging into them from treetops.
Took
So-
20 years for people to start thinking about where did they get Leah's clothes. You know,
So-
it's taken a long time.
Robert, what about you? Going to the past and what point, or going to the future?
So aside from, yeah, absolutely going to the future to just see what happens, maybe 100 or 200 years. But we keep thinking of this in terms of Earth and our society. How cool would it be to go to Mars, go back in time,
Ooh.
hundreds of millions of years to when it may have sustained life, and
Right.
see what that looks like and what form it took?
Oh,
better
that's
yet,
a cool one.
Go back and spit in the ocean
Oh my god.
and start the whole biology.
Until they
See,
lose
there
their
you go,
atmosphere.
yeah.
Yeah. And then
oddly
wait
enough-
for scientists to find evidence of your saliva.
Right.
Family Guy kind of went into that.
Or
so-
kill Mars Hitler.
But I mean,
Why
think
not?
about that concept of looking
Right.
at other parts of the universe.
Right.
Like we're seeing stars now that are long dead because of
Yes.
the speed of light.
Sure.
If we have that technology, we could do it from any point, right? We can
That would
travel
be
somewhere else
interesting.
and do it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a different kind of technology, but yeah, I mean,
I like that thought. What about you?
oh,
Bill?
and there's a dangerous part of going backward in time. is what if you're not geocentrically isolated? What if I go back
Earth moves.
If I went back in time 30 seconds and I was not fixed to Earth,
Well,
I'd be in a vacuum, freezing to death right now. So, if time
Well,
travel
you'd need a machine that was like the TARDIS.
but no,
from
the
Doctor
TARDIS
Who.
is a MacGuffin.
Well, sure.
But it's like in reality, if time is isolated to particular points in space, and like I travel from this point back in time, and I'm locked in this point in space. For most of this point in space existence, it is uninhabitable.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which is why you'd almost need a ship.
yeah, you need to go back in a
Yeah.
ship that could then navigate around. Yeah,
Right, and fix your points to something that you're not going to show up in the middle of a planet.
Well, and that's also
Right.
why there's some physicists and such that contend you need to have the time machine first, and then you can go back and forth between the time machine, but you can't have.
which is primer.
Yeah, Primus boxes.
You can't go prior to time machine, and I think it's because you need that fixed. You would need that quantum entanglement between you and the future has to be invented first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
As much as
whatever.
any of this
Is it
makes sense.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't.
Well, to answer Jenna's question, I would prefer to go forward in time if I had the option. Because I'm more about the future. I want to see the future technology, what fabulous new inventions there's going to be. Will we have hover cars, right? Will we have transporter technology? Unlikely, but, stuff like that. So if I were to go back in time, I think it'd mostly just be to fuck with people. Move. Oh, John set his wallet over here. I'm going to set it over there, kind of a thing. Or,
So you're the one that's doing that.
Yes, right.
Bury plastic skeletons.
Yes, right.
Way back before they should exist.
Yes, right.
A
right.
cell phone in the Stone Age.
Oh, so
Right.
you'd be the guy who did the ooparts thing, which is like ooparts are like objects that are found out of the context of time. Like people say they
Oh.
find cell phones that are thousands of years old, or a screw that's 500 million years old. And it's like it's basically people mess up the chronological dating in terms of how they do this. But it's like you'd be that guy. You'd be the guy that.
Right. I'd go back and get an old tin-type photo, and I'd be on my cell phone. Or
He'd be on the deck of the Titanic going like this.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's what I was just thinking of.
right.
That time traveler just needs to stop. They don't even
Yeah, they're getting
pretend
cocky
anymore.
now, right?
All right, Jenna, what about you?
So, it's funny. I don't have as much. It would be cool to see the future, but I'd be more interested, I think, in going to the past.
Well, you're a
And-
historian, right? So
Right, but I don't want to interact with it because I don't want to screw up the timelines of anything. So if I could just go back and observe, I want to see some dinosaurs. I want to just go spend a day hovering in a sphere that nothing can interact with me and just watch and hear and experience like what it would be like what was life on Earth doing? How did these animals sound? How did they interact? Like it would be amazing.
It would. I agree. I would like to see that too.
Yeah, if you could go back in observation-only mode.
Yeah.
That'd be
And
cool.
that's kind of a safe one because really, honestly, any interaction you had, unless you taught them how to make technology, would be ended by the asteroid strike 65 million years ago. So
It's true.
you can play with them, I guess. It's like you got to be careful about the mammals, though. They're little tiny mammals.
But you
that might
can't,
need.
in theory, play them because you don't know what microorganisms they have and what microorganisms you have and viruses. Like, who knows what kind of craziness.
I'd totally
the
come
sim-
home with a pet dinosaur. Man,
Which one?
something little like Ducky.
Yeah,
from,
you'd
Land
bring
Before
you'd
Time.
bring home the one that was needed. To,
Yeah,
to
right.
ensure your own existence.
the one that evolves into a bird.
So you
Right.
come back, there's no birds.
Yeah.
That'd be sad.
That would be sad.
Yeah. Right.
But the safer bet would be to just send back like a video camera.
A probe.
Yeah, I mean that would be what you do first if you
Sure.
had
Test it out.
Well,
Yeah, that's we never did get
for
into that.
entertainment purposes. Yeah.
We
Or a cat.
I mean, if you could fix like
What's wrong with cats?
well,
man?
because if you could fix that location where those historical figures that you'd be interested in what really happened, just send back
Like
the-
a nano probe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's something we haven't touched on. You have all this technology to build time travel, but no one's going to build a probe to just see what happens first.
Right,
To go into
right,
the time travel.
Well,
right.
yeah, it's like Galaxy Quest. You don't know if there's air. Do you know? You don't know. Is
Seems
there
all right.
air? Yeah,
Seems all right.
yeah, and that's like,
Seems
see, and
legit.
it did, but it might not have been.
Right.
It's
That's
like
why you
a-
need Monk.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I agree, pros. But it's like, I mean, you can't send like a probe back to like film Napoleon.
Why
Because
not?
no, you'd see Napoleon
Well,
going
no.
like this on the camera lens.
No,
Unless
no.
it's a nano that
Right.
looks like a fly.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a nanobot.
Exactly.
If
Bingo.
all right, if we get it that good,
Create
yeah,
a literal butterfly effect. Your probe creates a hurricane on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, your probes, the minute air that it
Right.
disturbs somehow changes the future, and
You're checking out like the signing of the Constitution and take out Japan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Whoops.
so yeah, somehow that probe Hitler won. You know, it's like what a great day
Yeah, like
for everybody.
to be in Pompeii, like the day before it happens, because none of the, I mean,
Really, yeah, literally, they're going to be written out of history. All of them.
Right.
So, except maybe that one traitor who sails off right before that sees your probe and then changes history.
yeah, it's always a critical factor.
It is. Or you could just send back an art book to Hitler as a kid and just.
I think this changing history worries just.
I'd send back the Sneetches by Dr.
You don't
Seuss.
think so?
Because it'll be an
I-
alternate
for Hitler,
timeline.
'cause
Right.
Fine, I'll be
Teaching him about
fine.
inequality is like very
Right.
important. But I mean,
What
Well,
about
Charles,
Yeah.
Oh, forward or backward? I don't know. It would depend on the day. I'm creating a multiverse, doing both. Right.
so you are a study of indeterminacy. You go either way in terms.
It would. Yeah, I think it would probably depend on. That's going to be a mood thing. It'd
think
be
of
real
think of
random.
the advancements
it'd be a
you
lot
could
of
do
fun
for
to go back.
humanity if you could go forward in time and bring back that technology to
Yeah,
now.
but he's over 40, so you know he's incapable as an engineer of actually figuring it out. So yeah, it's sad. I'm sorry, it's sad. But no,
Hey, I'm
where,
not-
Where do
yeah.
you fall on the scale of indeterminacy today? Right now, if you had a choice, where would you go? Future or past? If there's a choice,
There's a
you
lot of
made-
temptation for the future, but
You go forward to 2020, figure out who's going to win the election,
yeah.
right?
And then
Well,
decide
and then-
on cryostasis after that.
Right, right.
No. No, I don't know. Like I said, it would just depend. The past sounds like fun too. So,
Well, I mean, right
There's
now,
plenty of
where would you
times.
like to go if you had a choice right now?
someplace where there's optimists about time travel. I guess.
So you want to go to an alternate dimension, is what you're saying.
So what if
So
that has to be
Tomorrowland.
the future, right?
so what
I'd
if
go hang out with
Atlantis
H.G. Wells for a while.
Atlantis
have some
did
drinks.
exist and they zapped themselves to the future?
It's
Hey.
possible.
That's why they disappeared. They didn't go beneath the wave. They
All right.
Yeah, that'd be
Atlantis.
cool.
zapped themselves to the future because they were like, this all kind of sucks. We'd rather see what happens. And
Careful, this is how you get to become queen of the mystics. It's like it's more intense conspiracy theories have been formed for less than what you just said. So it's like if you want to find your picture on the back of a book cover describing Atlantis in the future, then
Considering how thin the premise for Atlantis is to begin with, a couple little
thin
bits from like,
premises
Plato,
don't bother. It's like I mean, there's alien conspiracies,
and
with
now there's
no
like a whole
proof at all.
genre on it. It's
I know. All it took was some dude just like, what if?
yeah.
Oh, you mean
A
Atlantis?
moral
Yeah,
story.
Atlantis.
Atlantis was Plato talking about Athens and
Yeah.
its moral decay, and he couldn't do that. Athens would have punished him had he actually mentioned Athens, so he
Right.
made up Atlantis and talked about that.
Yes,
and it's
and,
like,
and now it's made some great fiction.
it
Yeah, it
has.
has.
It has. And it's like Aquaman's a really good movie. It's like,
I haven't seen it yet.
of course
Yeah,
not.
nor
You
have I.
haven't seen? Have you seen like what one MCU movie?
No, I've seen quite a few of them.
Like what?
I've seen all the Iron Man.
Okay, so 3.
No, I've seen others.
Well, it's not a contest.
Name a superhero.
Batman.
Yes.
We're going to talk about
Seen
Doctor
'em all.
Strange
Yeah, but
because
Batman's
that's,
not
I've
that's
seen
our
Doc-
Tom guy.
I've seen Doctor
Batman's not
Strange.
MCU.
I've seen Doctor Strange.
Okay. I would figure
Aquaman
you would.
isn't
You're
MCU either, is he?
being
What?
the Time Lord that you
Aquaman,
are.
no, that's DC.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I'm confused.
That is another good reason to go into the future, because then you only have to watch. The good movies will have been recorded for you. You know,
Oh, no,
you
that's-
don't have to do bad movies.
Do you remember in Infinity War, Doctor Strange used the time crystal.
Yes, to see every
actually-
possible outcome.
Millions, and it's like, would you like to do that? See, now that would be fun. That I would love to see all possible future realities play out. That would be entertaining as
Could you
hell.
contain that within your brain?
I don't know, but it's like I don't know, but I'd like to try.
I'd like the Harry Potter style time turner. Yeah. And really just play with time all the time.
You mean the Hermione thing? that
Yeah.
you used
Yeah,
to-
speed it
Absolutely.
up, slow it down.
Yeah.
Although they never did get to the point, was Hermione still aging as she was using it? So she was basically stretching out time for herself to take more classes and do more work. So was she, in essence, by the end of that semester, like 6 months older than the rest of her friends?
I would
Well,
think so.
and the irony, of course, is that Dumbledore could have fixed everything. Instead, he just gave it to a student.
Yeah.
yeah.
Dumbledore's a terrible,
Yeah,
terrible
he's
teacher.
horrible.
It's like, hey, Harry, I
You
think
guys
you're
messed
neat,
everything
but-
up, but it was cool. 50 points to Gryffindor.
And on that point, are we going to end on 50 points to Gryffindor? Or?
I think we should. I think we should. And Jenna, do you want to tell the audience where to
well.
find
Should we
us?
insert Seth again?
Yes.
It's like,
Although,
I
according
feel-
to you all, I'm his female counterpart.
Right.
That's going to give him a good laugh when he hears that. So I guess check us out. YouTube, like, subscribe. We're also on many other platforms.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube.
So definitely subscribe so we know someone's listening.
you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well.
Yep.
Exactly. So just,
Like, subscribe, comment,
yeah, we
insult.
need the comments. Hey. I
Yeah,
don't
leave the comments. We want comments.
We want comments.
We
and
want bad
ideas.
comments. We want good comments. We want feedback.
Exactly.
Anything you want to say, please.
Well,
And
not
for both
anything.
remaining Google Plus users. Oh.
Right. I keep getting, I've gotten like 20 emails in the last week from Google saying your Google Plus account's going away. We're
Like,
shutting
I have
it
a
down.
Google Plus account?
I'm like,
What?
yeah,
So,
I think I'm okay with that.
We're in a lot of places. Check us out because we do this for you. And not just ourselves, I swear. It's to hear
Yeah.
and get good conversation and maybe learn new things, or you'll see a new movie that you never thought to even try before.
Right.
Like Primer. Try Primer.
Yeah. Or tell us something that we missed that you think is a great.
And thanks to Robert for joining us.
We're 10
Glad to be
minutes
here.
into our exit sequence now.
Exactly, which is why I started early.
Right. All right. Well, thank you all for joining again, and we'll see you next time. We'll have another fascinating discussion on something.
Something.
Sci-fi
To be
related.
determined.
Oh,
There-
you're not going to build the anticipation this time?
Well, there could be a field
Well,
trip involved.
Actually, yeah, I do believe that
We
there's
are
a good
planning
chance
a
we're
field
going
trip
to somewhere.
To
Yeah.
Lyons, Nebraska.
Ooh.
But
No, before that.
yeah.
Oh, well, before that, we're going to Sparta Games. Is that right?
Yes, so
And then we're also going up
It's right
to
across the street from
Lyons to
There you go.
Cosmic Film Studios sometime in March, I believe.
so we
That
have a
should be
lot going on.
Yeah.
Don't we have, isn't that when PlanetCon is too?
Is March
Yeah,
30th,
the end of March.
the last week of
We're
March.
busy in March.
We are busy.
Yes.
It's going to be a busy.
Yeah.
So you want to
Sweet.
stay tuned.
Stay
Yes.
tuned.
It's going to be
All right.
some March Madness.
We're doing some stuff from PlanetCon, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All
we,
right.
got, we got shit going
We
on, man.
got, we're stuff, and they just blew our clear rating. So Seth, Evil Sean's going to be mad at you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all. See you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.